comfort me.
I have written this specific video essay 4 times. Red State is literally the reason I stopped Fat Slob on Silent Bob. I wanted to put this video essay out in 2020. Then the world went to hell. So I kept trying to write it. If I didn't like it, I'd write it again. I couldn't just do a B-flat, spoiler-free review of this film, as was customary for the Fat Slob on Silent Bob videos of the time. No, I wanted to do this right. The hardest thing about writing a video essay is trying to find a hook. You ask yourself a lot of questions when you start to write a video essay. What would look good on a YouTube thumbnail? How do you attack your YouTube thumbnail? Especially with the fact that YouTube themselves wants you to have multiple title cards contributing to the gamification of the internet. Will people care about this topic? How do I attack this topic in a apolitical fashion? Should I even get political? What tone do I take? What are some good one-liners if I do decide to go with a humorous tone? All of these questions over a goddamn Kevin Smith movie. Then it hit me. The chaotic election year that is 2024. We are now living in a post-Trump America where the film's villain, Aben Cooper, would have thrived as a pastor. So needless to say, this is going to be a very political video essay. Go ahead, call me a libtard SJW cuck. It is important that I talk about Red State this year. We have Project 2025, which is basically Aben Cooper's vision of America in 900 plus pages. But why am I using Red State to sound the alarm on this election? It's quite simply a horror movie ahead of its time. The film itself titles all 3 of its acts as sex, religion, and politics. So I want to look at this film through those 3 lenses. Red State was a project that was first announced in 2006 and was written before Zack and Miri Make a Porno. It also happened to be the film Kevin Smith wanted to make the most. After doing Clerks 2, he wanted to jump right back into something that didn't have dick, weed, and fart jokes in it. But nobody was biting, not even the Weinsteins. So dick, weed, and fart jokes it was, as Smith's next project after Clerks 2 was Zack and Miri Make a Porno. In this time frame, Kevin Smith made headlines for being too fat to fly on Southwest Airlines, and he was getting savage reviews for Cop Out, a film that was a for-hire project for Warner Brothers that he didn't write, and in turn killed any and all respect he had for Bruce Willis. The reviews he got for Cop Out infuriated him to the point that he became very vocal about his hatred for critics. So he took to Sundance to formally announce that he was going to distribute Red State himself by jokingly buying the rights to Red State for $20, unfortunately calling his production company the Harvey Boys. Then he would take the film on the road in a roadshow format, which is how Smith distributed Jay and Silent Bob Reboot and Clerks 3, and as of this month, in a wonderful turn of events, will be how he re-releases Dogma next year. Without Cop Out, though, we wouldn't have got what I personally feel is Kevin Smith's most underrated film. Not only that, I personally feel Red State is one of the best horror movies of the 2010s. Red State is the story of 3 teenage boys who think they are going to get laid by an older woman. However, their beers are spiked and they are held captive by the 5 Points Trinity Church led by Aben Cooper. Now it's up to them to escape or die trying. Sex is a crucial aspect to Red State. The crux of the film is 3 horny high school students, one of whom is a pre-succession Nicholas Braun with a mullet, looking to have sex with a supposedly horny older woman at Cooper's Dell. The catalyst of the conflict starts as the teens sideswipe a car, while Stephen Root's Sheriff Winan, a family man who is cheating on his wife, is getting sexual gratification from a man. Aben Cooper believes that homosexuals are the messengers of Satan. He even goes so far as to say,
"The casual acceptance of the gay has hastened our demise as a species."
Gee, I wonder why I'm talking about this film 1 week before the fucking election! While they are captured, they witness the brutal execution of a gay man who is tied to a cross with a ball gag in his mouth. In Aben Cooper's eyes, this brutal execution is justified because
that is the scripture.
within 5 Points Trinity Church, this is practically sex to the clergy. We see a woman straight up orgasm over this innocent man's execution. We see these people praying for this innocent man to go to hell. Even down to Aben Cooper's choice of gag. There's a visceral, almost sexual thrill he gets executing gay people. Though crime has been down since 2021, there has been a spike of LGBTQ-related hate crimes, making it the third common hate crime attack behind religion and race. I want to talk briefly about the pop star Chappell Roan. Chappell Roan is one of those indie pop singers who would have faded into the background. However, she blew the fuck up on the strength of her 2 singles, Hot to Go and Good Luck Babe, this year. She is also openly gay and not exactly comfortable with fame. Then this happened.
Fuck the policies of the right, but also fuck some of the policies on the left. That's why I can't endorse. That's why I can't, put my entire name and my entire project behind one.
She is also very outspoken in her politics, as she caught flack for saying both parties are bad, before revealing that yes, she is voting for Kamala Harris, but not exactly endorsing her, as Roan is outspokenly pro-Palestine. Which leads to Bill Maher. On a recent episode of Real Time with Bill Maher, he addresses Chappell Roan's pro-Palestine stance by saying that she would be thrown off of a roof if she lived in Palestine.
Chappell, if you think it was repressive growing up queer in the Midwest, try the Mideast. You're a female drag queen, and you sing, "I fucked you in the bathroom when we went to dinner, your parents at the table." Yeah, that wouldn't fly in Gaza, although you would straight off a roof.
I've always hated this fucking argument, especially if it comes from someone who is conservative-leaning, because MAGA Republicans are looking for legal ways to throw LGBTQ people off of roofs, especially if they are trans.
So the idea that Sherrod Brown voted to allow transgender biological men to compete in girls' sports?
I live in Ohio. I get inundated by political ads that explicitly state the god-awful phrase transgender biological men when talking about Sherrod Brown, probably one of the most milquetoast, lily-white, I'd vote Obama for a 3rd term if I could neoliberals to ever grace the Senate. But with Red State, Smith seemed to be sounding the alarm to where America was heading. America was going to become full of hate, attack their fellow neighbor. And it's gonna get ugly. So naturally, we have to talk about religion. We have Aben Cooper, a man who does heinous things in the name of God. From the very first frame of Michael Parks' A-plus Oscar-caliber performance, you just feel a sense of dread. I'm being serious. He should have been nominated for an Oscar for this role. Aben Cooper also blends him well into polite society when needed. He is cooperative with law enforcement, and puts on a smile if need be. You can see why somebody would join the 5 Points Trinity Church. You can see why someone, especially family members, would die for this man. But here's what's important about all of this. Aben Cooper could be your neighbor. Look no further as to how he schmoozes with law enforcement and then threatens to blackmail Sheriff Winan. It's the duality of the typical MAGA Republican. Back the blue if they legally execute someone of color, but they're part of the deep state or Antifa if they try to stop people from storming the Capitol on January 6th. One of the big buzzwords surrounding today's Republican Party is indoctrination. Apparently, according to Trump, school teachers nationwide are doing free sex change operations and are secretly turning your kids gay. But really, the call is coming from inside the house. What's chilling about Red State is seeing young children being indoctrinated into this hateful sect of Christianity that the script makes a point of saying that both the Nazis nor the Westboro Baptist Church don't want anything to do with them. Yet 13 years after this film's release, we are living in the age of social media and algorithms, and Republicans know it. So mommy and daddy pimp out their kids and use them to espouse their politics.
I'm a conservative kid. Of course the Second Amendment protects us from an evil government. I'm a conservative
As if it's already bad enough that this is an obnoxious parody of this shit stain of a human being turning his kids into walking Costco advertisements for TikTok Club. But it's not just TikTok. We're seeing kids being homeschooled into hate. In the documentary This Place Rules, Andrew Carnahan spotlights a family who is teaching their kids about QAnon. And it's downright heartbreaking to see young kids speak like this.
Who are pulling the strings is the Italian Vatican. They actually are reptilian bloodlines from another planet.
So what's inside McDonald's food?
I think it's like grind up children. I don't have a lot of friends. I just have like one or two. You have a ton. I have 0.
Which just proves Aben Cooper would have had a Joel Osteen level megachurch if he had access to social media, QAnon, and the MAGA movement in 2011. In some states, you are forced to put up the 10 Commandments in your classroom. Aben Cooper would love 2024 right now. He'd be stumping for Donald Trump every chance he got. So I'm just going to close this segment simply by saying this. So a drag queen reading a story to young kids is indoctrination, but not literal fucking children parroting mommy and daddy's conservative talking points on TikTok. Make this make sense. This is why the inclusion of children in this church is a phenomenal touch by Smith. Children are impressionable and are taught to hate. Let's talk politics. It's oddly poetic that our introduction to our 3 main characters is in a classroom setting discussing the Constitution. Travis is running late due to a funeral protest of a gay man implied to have been executed by 5 points that leads to a heated discussion in the classroom about the evils of the 5 Points Church. The discussion of the Constitution is an absolutely genius touch by Kevin Smith. 2024 may very well be one of the most consequential elections of my lifetime. We have a Democratic presidential candidate and vice presidential candidate who on paper would have been ideal Republicans circa 2000, running a campaign of hope, patriotism, and optimism. And Donald Trump and J.D. Vance straight up advocating Nazi shit.
They're ruining our country, and it's true. They're destroying the blood of our country. That's what they're doing. They're destroying our country. They don't like it when I said that, and I never read Mein Kampf.
Homelessness has gone up. Murders are up by 81% because of what Kamala Harris has allowed to happen to this small community. I'm going to keep on talking about that.
Let's put a pin on J.D. Vance and talk about him. J.D. Vance was once a never-Trumper who passed himself off as one of the good Republicans. He once called Trump America's Hitler and is happily married to an immigrant. So you can see why people flock to his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy. That book would later become a major motion picture directed by Ron Howard that starred Amy Adams, Glenn Close, and Frida Pinto. The film bombed with critics, despite getting 2 Oscar nominations, including a Best Supporting Actress nod for Glenn Close. I'd say that's pretty good for a conservative-leaning film. But this was the tipping point for Vance. He went full MAGA after this film's reception, which of course won his Senate seat in Ohio. But Vance reminds me a lot of Aben Cooper. Like Aben Cooper, he is a master shapeshifter. J.D. Vance is a man who got thoroughly red-pilled after his film failed with critics, but also feigned sympathy when he found out Tim Walz' son was in the crossfire of an active shooter. I see more of Aben Cooper and J.D. Vance than I do with Donald Trump. Trump is one note. You can read Trump. Vance isn't. That's what makes him far more dangerous. The politics of Red State fascinate me. Smith himself said the film was apolitical, but it's clear that Smith is not a fan of organized religion. Its third act gear shifts into an action film starring John Goodman as Joseph Keenan, an ATF agent surrounded by people who shoot first and ask questions later. The crux of this third act involves Carrie Bechet's Cheyenne's come-to-Jesus moment as she looks to get the kids out of 5 Points Trinity Church as she sees violence being done in the name of God. She enlists the help of Jared, who in no way trusts her until Cheyenne kills her own mother in self-defense. Her reward? Getting shot in the head by an ATF agent as she calmly explains she is trying to help them. Jared's reward? Being shot immediately after Cheyenne. Look no further than the story of Sonia Massey. Massey was trying to make the police comfortable and realized her stove was on. She was shot for the crime of going to turn off her stove by trigger-happy law enforcement. In Red State, the film shows law enforcement as people who will do whatever they want to succeed, in an unfavorable light. The original ending was to be more apocalyptic, as Gabriel's trumpet sounds and heads start to explode, with Joseph Keenan being the sole survivor as the four horsemen come down. However, Kevin Smith didn't have the budget to make this ending, as is evidenced by this animated sequence provided by Entertainment Weekly. So Kevin Smith writes that it was just a bunch of pot farmers fucking with 5 points. The film ends with Joseph Keenan failing upward and getting promoted. Pre-Trump, I would have said this ending was anticlimactic, and I did say that in my initial review. Post-Trump, it's a damning indictment on law enforcement. The raid on 5 points was an abject failure all around, and here's the head of that raid getting promoted. What's great about Goodman's performance is that Keenan is not some generic law enforcement good guy. He's depicted as a family man when we are first introduced to him, but he wants to go in guns blazing against the wishes of his ATF officers. My favorite line in this film comes from when Kevin Pollux Brooks asks Keenan,
"How much you think a cross like that costs?"
You mean in dollars or common sense?
That is a valid question to ask right now, as evangelicals are bending over backwards for a man who is the living embodiment of the 7 deadly sins and rambling on about Arnold Palmer's dick size. Keenan's answer is spot on when we see people posing with golden idols of Donald Trump at CPAC, and not 12 hours after I finish my final draft of this essay, we see a crowd chant, "Jesus! Jesus! Jesus!" I don't care what the fucking context of it is. It's goddamn terrifying. Red State may be one of the most important films of the 2010s. I am being serious about this. Like its contemporary Get Out, it's a horror movie written by a man first and foremost known for comedy. However, this film predates Get Out by 7 years, and somehow in 2024, it's still shockingly relevant. It's a film that tackles fundamentalist religion, Christian nationalism, the criminalization of LGBTQ people, and the ethics of law enforcement. It's a very powerful and damning indictment on how absolute power corrupts absolutely. So, I close this video with one simple plea. Please go out and vote. I spent this entire video going after MAGA Republicans. It's time to piss off Twitter leftists now. If you feel the need to say you won't vote because Joe Biden didn't solve a literal centuries-long conflict overnight, get your head out of your ass. I don't even want to hear the word Palestine come out of your fucking mouth if you didn't bother to vote. Especially if Trump wins. If you feel the need to use the word Zionist when insulting a Jewish celebrity you disagree with, here's Cheyenne herself, using it as a slur for Jewish people.
They could put us on trial, and then the Zionist media would make heroes out of them. But they...
And I say this as someone who is pro-Palestine, because this is what both Trump and Vance think of voting and your rights as American citizens.
It'll be fixed, it'll be fine.
You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians.
Is that we're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies.
Because what was fiction 13 years ago may end up becoming reality. You know, maybe Chaperone is right. Both sides are bad, actually. Be sure to dislike, send death threats, call me an SJW cuck, and until then, free Palestine, Black Lives Matter, and the MAGA movement isn't even close to conservative. It's fucking Stalinist! Wake the fuck up, Republicans, and grow a fucking spine!